All right, this is the Flood Erosion Resilience Board meeting of, April 19th, and we are officially calling the meeting to order. Oh, if you want the full title, it's the Flood Prevention, Climate Resilience, and Erosion Control Board, of which we are shortening it to be the Flood Erosion Resilience Board.
Thank you for that.
So let's just go around the room, and if you can state your name and position, if you have one, for the record. I'm Becky Bunnell, Chair.
Don Lamberti, Vice Chair.
I'm Dick Mahusky, and I'm Secretary.
Oh, and we have Bill Hurley.
I knew he was
here.
I knew it.
I knew somebody would stop by and say, hey, don't forget.
Well, I went down to see if you were here or were going to call in, and the door was locked at the corridor. So I said, well, I guess
the door was locked. I don't know who locked it.
And then Prue said, what? It's only 7 o'clock and Bill's not here? How dare he?
I did.
I thought maybe I was making a copy or something. So. Anyway, hello.
So welcome, Bill.
Paper cup.
Nice to see you in person again.
Maybe one.
Oh.
Is there what's the Wi-Fi password? I usually have
Capital HAPPY 375 exclamation point.
HAPPY
375 exclamation point.
I can check quick.
No, don't.
So we heard from Paul that he's out of town. He will not be here. I don't know about Peter, but we do have a quorum.
So we will proceed then. So our first item of business is to consider and act upon the minutes of the March 15th, 2022 regular meeting. Does anyone have any comments or suggested edits? Oh, why am I?
I knew he was going to. I just hope he wasn't going to kill me today.
I have a reputation.
I just come here with my comments for comic relief and to let everybody get their belligerence out of their system.
Listen.
I have two.
Okay.
I have two comments.
All right.
And actually, I wrote down my comment, and I have a copy for the recording secretary.
Oh, thank you very much. Look,
so she doesn't have.
This is how mine printed. It's all wanky.
Yeah.
That's sort of interesting.
Thank you.
My first comment is review of the Master Flood and Erosion Control Board product status, item number 3. I have a couple of edits on the first sentence, but more than that, if we just flip over to item number 6, it says update on Circa grant request, and it says this was discussed earlier. So this first sentence is actually that discussion. So I'm saying, why don't we just move that to item 6? Because item 6 was an item on the agenda, and we just kind of started in our fashion, just rambling about it. So it reads now. Becky Bunnell said board applied for a Circa grant and we're waiting for approval. A benefit cost analysis was included in the grant request.
It was the grant request.
And then we got to the Rooster River. It reads better to me if we said Becky Bunnell said the town applied, because we don't really apply for grants through the town.
Right.
Okay.
So change board to town, applied for a Circuit grant, and we're waiting for approval to do a benefit cost analysis for 3 projects. And that just makes more sense to me.
Okay.
You want me to read it again?
No, I've got it right here.
No, I mean for my other 2 board members.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. And then my other comment is also on item 3, down like 5 lines up from the bottom. The sentence starts, Pine Creek dredging is going forward, but the permit is not signed off yet. Becky Bunnell thinks it would be best to work through conservation, and we'll meet with engineering manager Bill Hurley and conservation Tim Bishop. There's an online grant process that has to be submitted by May 19th. Neighborhoods can apply too. I would just start that sentence with the resident-initiated plan for Lower Pine Creek dredging, because it kind of sounds like it's a town plan, but the neighbors are really the ones that are initiating it, and that gave it some clarity to me.
And Do you,
I mean, so let me ask you a question. So just because they initiated it, is it on our master flood and erosion control plan or not? In other words, would we consider it an active project? There's a group of people working on it that are obviously the residents.
We might carry it. See, because to me, that has nothing to do with flooding. That has to do with the volume of water that can go in and out. It might have to do with the health of the marsh.
Well, there's erosion.
Yeah, okay, so we should carry it. So
Not
we
flooding.
should carry it. We should carry it.
I think we should track it only because we should be tracking all of the projects that go on that have to do with erosion or flooding, whether or not we're actively
Right.
leading it or not, just because it's something that's happening in the town. Let me rephrase that. And I think we can call it out.
Which is similar to the Ash Creek.
Yeah, Ash Creek.
Because Ash Creek is not gonna do a whole heck of a lot for flooding, but it's erosion.
It's erosion control.
It's erosion and.
Right.
And we have and we need to continue to work in concert with conservation, is my opinion.
Right.
Even
and we can call it out as led by a neighborhood association.
Yeah.
I think that's appropriate.
okay, and that brings me to what I was gonna ask you when I looked at this again. So, there was they had to be in a non-for-profit group, these neighborhoods, to apply for the...
Well, National Fish and Wildlife can be applied for either by municipalities, or it can be applied for by a 501c3 or a 501c4.
So should I put that here instead of neighborhoods can apply too?
Yeah, why don't we say neighborhood 501c4 organizations can apply too?
Okay.
I don't think I don't know if Alexa is applying or not.
Well, she, to that point, she was on this call.
She was listening to your webinar.
Yesterday, Monday, yesterday.
Thank you, Dick, I appreciate this paper.
When was that? When was that call? That was with.
You sent me an email.
No, that was yesterday, because I asked Rebecca French about that limit on the LISS ones, so that was yesterday. Yeah, she was on that webinar, and she asked the question about dredging of Pine Creek. So obviously she's interested in the NIFWA grant for that, So those are the only suggested changes that I have.
Any other edits or suggested changes? All right, do I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
Okay. Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the amended minutes are approved. Thank you, Prue.
Thank you.
All right, Bill. We're going to go through the master plan.
Well, I did send it out probably about 2 hours ago. I don't know if everybody got it.
Yeah, I got it, but you said you had some comments. I couldn't tell what were your comments and what were not. So I took a copy and I just highlighted in different color what I thought were your copies. So you can, if you
go over.
If you wouldn't mind, just go through it and just, I mean, my intention is to just get an update of where we stand on these things. And I'm trying to make this exhaustive list, some of which will be inactive, some of which will be like recently completed, 5-year-old things I'm not gonna worry about. But I'm just, and I'm also playing in my mind with what I'm gonna say, because I wanna get in where the funding is. Like some of these things are in the out years on the capital plan, so I wanna capture that so it can serve as sort of a timeline if you look at it in a certain way.
Sure.
So.
Well, we'll start off with coastal, and it says Riverside Drive, Turney to Jennings Beach. And the first one that you have here is study funded by grant. And I just put on USACE, the Army Corps of Engineers, because I believe that was the study that you're referring to.
Yes.
And so that's been completed by them. So for a budget, I just put an NA and active.
Right, that's the one they did 6 years ago or something.
Or 4 years ago or something like that. So that's complete. But I just put USACE just to separate it, because there's so many studies and grants.
Yep.
The Tie Gate Bridge and Culvert improvements, I did not revise this budget, but including the siphon chamber and maybe some
Yeah, that was
environmental
much more than
cleanup.
3.7, right? It's over 5
It's like
now.
5.5, yeah. 5.5 million. I would have, under the status is, design is completed, but not funded. And so the next step is to seek funding or grant.
But now the funding is going to the town bodies and say, okay, this is on the capital plan for 5 million, approve it.
That would be seeking funding for that. That would be correct.
I mean,
Or-
even just because something's on the town capital plan doesn't mean it's automatically funded.
No, that's
Each
right.
project has to
Right.
go
It's
before
only been earmarked.
selectmen, finance,
When you look
RTM.
at what they call the waterfall or the
Yep.
capital improvement project, a lot of times you'll see an A or a P. If it has a P, it's proposed.
Right,
And it can be proposed for 8 years, 10 years.
Okay.
That is green, you know.
and it's not approved
Something like that,
until
not
Board of
approved.
Selectmen, Finance, and RTM
That's
say,
correct.
yes,
So when
go.
you see the A, that means it's been funded, and then usually under some sort of
Bonded
chart
or
or something like that, we'll have some account or a fiscal year associated with it. So they'll have an account number, like,
Okay.
I'll just use an example of 22T6 or something like that. That meant it was approved fiscal year 22, and it's project number 6 on their list that's been approved.
Okay.
So just appearing
So
on the
this has a
capital
P, so-
plan,
So this is a P still.
This is a P, that's right, it's
Yeah.
not been approved, the money has not been approved. Now, we can go in for it, but I have no idea if they'll approve it or not, there's probably no harm in doing that, but in the same token, I'm pretty sure it's being that kind of price tag, they're gonna wanna at least know that
are we still
the next
waiting?
year, there's no grants available, and then,
Right.
or something like that.
Are we still waiting on the siphon design or detail before it can go out to bid?
I was under the impression that all that was done. I was told it was 95%
Okay.
done, the completion.
And
Just
Ty
a
and-
bid document.
Ty and Bond is doing that,
Ty and Bond is the consultant, that's correct.
okay.
So again, I'm shooting that, at some point in summer of 2022, we'll either try to find a grant for it or seek funding,
Okay,
and go from there. Riverside Drive Phase 1, and I just have to caution you, Riverside Drive, there's, sometimes it's called Turney Creek, so there's a little overlap.
Mhm.
And one of them is the Tie Gate Bridge and Culverts, sometimes that's called Riverside. And, this one here,
Well, this is just the FEMA map revision.
right, okay, and then
So,
there's
I mean,
also
we've
a
just
Riverside
talked
open
about
space.
that.
So I just wanna, it gets very, I'm just saying,
Mhm.
Should we name them different things? What,
that's,
I mean,
Well,
now's our
that's
time to kind of
That's one of
tighten
the
up the
thi-
naming if we
Yeah,
wanna.
that's one of the things I thought when I was talking about the McCleary or McClevey tide, which it's McClevey, I since I've learned. But the tide gate, I said, well, we should just give them numbers, tide gate number 1, tide gate number 2, tide gate number 15, or something, I don't know.
give it the road name, I mean, but again, in this case here, because Turney Creek and Riverside are almost
Are the-
interchangeable,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
there's 2 open space areas on
Right, and
Riverside
then-
Drive.
Well, I
and
particularly
3
think we
different
should,
studies.
we should have the same things that are in the capital plan. If Bill's calling it something else in the capital plan, it should be the same thing, otherwise we'll be
All right,
sitting there going,
I'll make
Right,
that.
otherwise
right.
we'll be saying,
Yeah.
which one is this? The
Follow
names
up
need to be
on
the same.
correct, labeling.
because the one we did at the wastewater treatment plant outfall, above the outfall, that's called the Pine Creek outfall. And now the Railroad Bridge one is called the Railroad Bridge, but it's also Pine Creek
Yeah,
tide gate, so,
Mhm.
But I don't care what it is, as long as our names match
yeah, no,
capital plan
I-
names.
and then
Justified.
sometimes the capital name plans kind
They
of.
change too?
But, I think a better description on them helps.
Yeah, and then we just all know
alleviate
exactly what they
confusion.
are,
Yep.
yeah.
And again, because Dick mentioned here, revised FEMA map, now I kind of know what he was talking about, because right underneath it is another.
well, and I didn't
Well,
wrap
exactly,
that,
yeah,
I
all
didn't
the
wrap
Riverside
that,
Bridge.
I didn't wrap that, there's more
Yeah.
words after that.
So that is there no way we can get that funded? Because that would, I mean, that doesn't seem like a lot of money. It seems like.
Now is, and again, this is where some nomenclature. If
This was
we're
to relook
referring
at the mapping
to that Circa grant, we did get the Circa grant for $30,000.
No, but that was for the benefit cost analysis
Right.
for those 3 areas.
Right.
This is for someone has to come in and do a FEMA map revision proposal. of that section.
Lomar,
that
we're
we think
we're
is,
trying to get a Lomar that says,
Yeah.
this is not VE 15, this is AE 12, 13,
Right.
11, some other
Okay.
number.
Which
that
would help
was
them a
what-
lot with
yeah.
their
Somebody had
insurance.
mentioned on that. I would think on that one, we could probably talk to TPZ on that one, because they're the ones that are very familiar with the Lomar and,
Would we ask them to fund it then, or?
All right, let me talk, I'll talk to Emmeline, and then the other thought I had
and because where'd
is,
that 30,000 figure come from too?
That came, so, I
don't
think
know.
Laura may have given us a 20 to 30. She said 20 to 30.
Okay.
And it was just a
'Cause
consultant
that
fee.
circa is 30, and so,
Yeah.
again, and it's right in the same area.
Yeah,
That's
no,
why.
this was a Laura estimate, and she pulled it out of the
And,
air
well,
as
for
opposed to.
clarification, I think,
she's wrong, she's a short-time man. That darn Laura, she caused all the commotion.
well, I think that was referring back.
Laura, if you listen to this recording, I'm jesting.
Huh?
She was referring, I think, to one of the consultants had mentioned, maybe to increase the chances of getting either grant money or, a lot of
We've
times,
lowered the
in order to
berm.
get the permits, you have to go extremely high.
We wanted to be able to do
By revising that
yeah.
map, you can lower the,
Right.
The
and
cost.
again, it's also based on, it's not just playing with numbers, it's based on
reality.
models.
It
or
shouldn't,
true,
it
yeah.
shouldn't, it
I
actually
mean,
shouldn't be that
just
high.
because you're at elevation
Yeah.
17 on a flood map, if there's proof or,
All right, let
Sandy,
me
you were 6
let me
feet below,
to get her slant on
See
Lomars
if
and
she
things.
can
And then my other
fund it.
thought was, Dave Murphy now has his own shingle hung out. He left, Malone and McBroom. So I'll call him and say, Dave,
What would
because he
you charge us?
worked on that project for the
Yeah.
Riverside Drive.
What would you charge us
I
to
said, yeah,
do
so
a
Dave,
FEMA
what's the
FEMA
deal on
remap?
this? How much, if we issue you a purchase order, how much would it have to be for you to get the Lomar done?
Yeah. Yeah, why don't we?
I mean, that'll be a real world price.
And wouldn't it be nice if it was like only 10,000?
Yeah.
Because honestly, I think it was pulled from the air. I don't think it was necessarily
well, if funding is an issue, then.
Lomar. It's Lomar, right?
LOMR.
Oh, just R. No. it's
Letter, it stands for Letter of Map
map
Revision.
revision. Yeah. Thank you.
Perhaps, I don't know if they have funding source or not, whether DPW does. We do have a flood management account, but I'm not sure if that, this would qualify or not, so we'd have to check and see.
Yeah, see if she can fund it out of,
For the Riverside Creek.
Right,
Tie
that's
gate
the new one, that's Riverside Creek.
Single open space one.
Yes,
Yes, Tim, had got that approved through conservation.
right, it's funded,
Fiscal
again,
year 23.
I think we're gonna say proposed, I think it's a
is that a P
proposed,
or an A?
not an approved.
No, now it's an A, that would be an
It's
A,
an
that
A?
was approved, it was approved, I'm almost positive that was approved.
Okay, good. And then the open space berm,
I will double, maybe let me double check on that, because, we have had 2 capital meetings, but I don't know if they've done a formal vote, so let me check
You
on
want a
that,
copy of
I'm
that?
sorry. So we'll check and see if that's.
oh, I've got it on here, but
Oh,
if you have an extra copy, I'll go
Yeah,
ahead and
yeah, I
write
got it. No,
I'll take one.
okay.
May I take that?
Yeah.
Now, the next one, Riverside, Phase 2 berm, from the open space
Okay.
to the boat base.
And that was either berm and or wall.
Okay, right here, 2022-23, Riverside Creek, Tide Gate Repair, P. This is from, I'm not exactly sure the date on this.
Might have
This
gone
is
in
the
as a P, you
capital.
don't know if it
This is
came
the
out of it.
capital plan.
Yeah,
You
no,
don't-
well.
This is the one like from December, this is like from
Yeah.
December of 21, I believe.
Yeah.
But we've had a
That's under
meeting.
non-recurring, right?
Non-recurring under 1 million.
Yeah, I think they made the approvals on that, I think it's been approved. If I recall, they
It says
approved
on
all
here
the tide
funded.
gates. The capital projects over $1 million, they're still voting on, that's where
Real money.
it gets a little confusing.
So the design
anyway, the
is
design
funded
is
in the capital
250.
plan, or it's funded?
It says, proposed here, but yet it appears on the FY '23 non-recurring capital plan, project grade, but I'm unclear as to what's.
And this is for the 250,000?
Yeah.
No, 453.
Oh, we
that's
won't,
for the replacement, yeah,
That's the
I believe that's
Riverside
been
Creek
approved.
Tide Gate.
I believe
You think that's
been
an A?
approved. Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe that's been approved.
so is the 250,
And so is the following one, the, design,
that was approved?
yes,
Excellent.
yeah, those have been approved.
So we, have not started to write the RFP on that, though?
No, and that's why I have on here is that we would need the RFP and preferably the BCA for that. And then we would do an RFP for the summer.
That would be summer. And the BCA was not one of the
Benefit
circle
cost
ones?
analysis.
Was the BCA
Yeah, that's
one of the circle ones?
Yep. Mhm.
So the BCA is funded then?
That's correct.
But we should probably ask, would that be impacted by the Lomar, that berm revision? In other words, would the BCA be different if that was a different Lomar?
That I
I'd
don't
have to
know.
look at the map
Yeah.
and see, because it really, the VE 15 really didn't go very far, like.
I think Dick is right. I think it only covers that small area because if it's a velocity zone, that makes a big difference.
And this is outside of that?
This is, flood stage, then it won't matter.
But I'd hate us to get a negative, benefit cost when we could have, if that was impacting it.
Yeah, you'd have two different studies on it, unless you have the same company doing both.
Yeah.
Then at least they would know what they were, doing. One of the things we could do is at least make sure they coordinate, when
Yeah.
you do the RFPs. You say you must coordinate with sister project or a related project or something like that, which is what we're doing with the Perry's Green. We state that you have to be working with the
Pequot.
engineers from the Pequot Yacht Club.
Right.
Correct. The next one, I have to admit, I was a little confused.
I don't know what that
on.
means
Yeah.
either,
Non-town
I'm working
land,
off an old
berm, raised areas. I have no idea what.
Okay, I know what that is, and I'm not sure why we wrote it this way, but if I think what that was, so the berm that we're talking about, the one we just talked about that went from the boat basin,
Mm-hmm.
would have gone actually from Jennings Beach, around the boat basin, up through the open space, up to where it ends, the open space ends
on
at
Riverside Drive.
Right?
Yes.
So that berm would have tied Jennings Beach into Riverside Drive with either a larger berm and or a wall. Right?
And then,
That was the first one, the one we just talked about. The second one would have gone from Riverside Drive up
around those 3 or 4 houses.
around the houses, either
back
outside
to
around the
Tide
houses
Gate,
or
back to the Turney
behind,
Creek Tide Gate.
or behind the houses, because
Yeah.
there were a couple different ways.
But
In the
behind-
Riverside Drive
At the
studies
edge
that
of
we
the
did,
marsh,
it could have either gone around or it could have gone on the marsh edge, the inside.
With the benefit cost, I included both.
You looked at
on
both,
that,
okay.
so-
So it's almost like it's two parts of the same berm, if you think about it.
Yeah, either that or maybe.
So what's a better way to call that?
Maybe
what would
just
be-
an alternate or
all right,
alternate or
I'll
extension?
I'll massage that.
It's an extension.
I know, yes.
It's an extension, it's from Riverside Drive up to the Riverside Creek Tide Gate, right?
Yeah.
So maybe, so it's a non-town land berm, the only reason we wrote non-town land is it's gonna have to get easements through people's yards,
Right.
whereas the other one didn't have to.
Or
It's all town.
the other thing is that there are
What goes along the right of
two
way.
private if I'm going down Riverside Drive toward the Tide Gate Assembly, on my left-hand side, there's Mike Megan or somebody's house there, the last house, and then there's actually 2 privately owned parcels that are like all wetland, so they're never gonna do anything with them. I mean, you can't. So my idea is the town should just go and fork up 20 grand and pay each of them $10,000 and buy that land and add it to the town marsh land. And then we can build the berm on it and encroach on the marsh, but look, Deep, or Army Corps, we're restoring the marsh because it's just all phragmites now, and we're gonna do this and that and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, but real quick though on that, just to let you know that some people in the town, I believe Tom Stanky and even Brian afterwards, and maybe even somebody else from the town looked into that.
Mm-hmm.
And if I recall, that one of those parcels or whatever happens to be owned by a family in a state from Trumbull, and I think there's 7 members, and like 2 or 3 of them think it's gold, you know what I mean? And
A marshland that they can never build on?
you never know with
Yeah.
people.
No, I know,
So-
people are
So
fun.
it kinda got squashed in that, 'cause that was one of the things that we were looking at is,
Yeah.
That's funny.
in the replacement of the Riverside / siphon and all that, we were looking at maybe doing a berm on the other side and going across the wetland.
Yeah.
And then, again, when we met with our little pre-concept with Deep, we're like, no, this isn't gonna fly.
Well, maybe they wanna keep the property because they only have to pay $20 for a beach sticker instead of $260
Who knows? I
or
don't know,
something.
yeah. But, there is another option though of running it, the berm, or some sort of wall along the right of way as well.
There is right away there, okay.
I mean, well, along.
Right away at the edge
On the
of the road.
road right away, yeah. Well, then you'd have all the driveways.
Yeah, the driveway.
Well, again, there's no driveway for that stretch.
Oh, for that stretch, okay.
That's, or you go on the other side and right after Bay Edge Court.
What should we call this? Obviously, we didn't know what this was.
Yeah, but you've already dropped some elevation from where the town property, the open spaces
Oh, I'd
comes
have to-
out
I'd have
onto
to-
Riverside. You drop some elevation by the
It drops
time you
down
get
a
to
little
Bay
bit there.
Edge.
What do we want to call this project? That we'll all know what it is.
I'll come up with something. I'm gonna do another iteration of this and then send it around.
I mean, if it involves Bay Edge, I'd probably call it Bay Edge. If it doesn't involve Bay Edge, then I don't know if you call it near Bay Edge or.
Yeah, okay.
In between.
I'll come up with something.
Open spaces, or something like that. All right, the South Benson Pump Station and lines, right now that's in what we call limbo land. The low BCA is really hurting us on that, and, I don't know what the next step is, because even with any of these infrastructure money, the last round of grants called the RAISE grant, you had to meet 12 criteria, which also
That was a DOT grant?
involved, no, this was, I don't know if it was DOT or not.
I think a DOT were raised.
But it involved, low and moderate income, equality, environment, transportation.
We didn't get enough of those.
And all that, yeah, and I still think they wanted the BCA. And it was a different BCA than what FEMA used, so.
Yeah, that, and Army Corps' BCA's were like positive, what?
We're still trying to figure that
What
out,
were they?
why that's the case.
Okay, so that's in limbo. I
Yeah.
like that.
So,
Beach nourishment.
Beach nourishment, yeah.
So, that's still,
Are we
the
still waiting for Army Corps?
Army Corps is still not giving us permits for that?
I'd
And
have
at
to
one
check
point,
with Army Corps.
we were gonna just do that with our town bulldozers, move sand around with our town bulldozers, bring some sand in the winter to contour the beaches according to those profiles that Race did. But my last understanding was Army Corps hasn't given us the permits. Is conservation actually shepherding that? Or
I'll be honest
engineering?
with you, I don't know who is, to be honest with you on that.
Because it seems engineering makes sense because the surveyors are supposed to go and take periodic profiles like after the storm and this and that.
Well, that was one of the things that we
and
had done, just to let you know.
Get that history.
We rented a special GPS machine where it would do the survey a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, satellite or whatever, that area, the first year was barely doable. We were able to get the next year we had a hard time. We couldn't get a signal. It's just unbelievable. We figure, of all places, there's no buildings in the way, there's no anything.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing with, out here at Independence Hall. I think this side of Independence Hall, you can get cell service, but that side you can't.
Wow.
There's just certain things you can't
Yeah,
explain.
okay.
That's one of them. So, now we're shorthanded on that, but, if we're gonna do something, we should.
Bill, I'm tired of this shorthanded. Oh, wait.
2020.
I was joking recording. That was not. I gotta
No, but
remember.
the 2022, and that's for the survey. If we can get somebody out there for this year, I think it's important, because otherwise, if you let a couple of years lapse, when you go for FEMA, they will deny you.
Right.
You didn't do it every year.
But wasn't part of Race's plan that we were going to initially move around some sand?
Well, that would be the
To
thing,
change
based
the
on
profile?
that, if the profile changed enough.
Oh, so we get
Then
the
you-
profile
then-
now and then go back to the Race's original
Right, yeah, 'cause
profile.
the first year, as an example, we had no storms in 2018. 2019, not much. 2020, maybe there was one or
Okay.
whatever, and, I don't recall any significant, but.
Well, this
you know,
last
like you
storm
said, about
probably made a big
135
difference.
Well, maybe, yeah.
But can you do that without their permission?
Well, that's another story, yeah.
You're not allowed
It's
to.
only above a certain elevation, yeah.
Well, these are town
And then,
beaches
but
though,
we
right?
also though, and that's where, when Dick was talking about, I'll have to check with our consultant to find out if the Army Corps or the DEP actually gave us the permit. Because if we have the permit's good for 5 years, and then we can regrade below the coastal jurisdiction line. So that does come into play with that.
Oh, because the permit
Permit
lets you
would
go
allow it.
before
Right.
below the
Yeah,
CJL.
basically the
Yeah.
permit gives you.
If we were only
Hold
above
on,
the
They actually do
CJL.
it the same way with a dredging permit, if I recall, where if, they give it to you for 5 or 10 years, you can kind of go back maybe year 2 and year 7 under the same permit.
Okay.
Which is why the Pine Creek people want to get their permit extended.
Yeah, okay.
But, all right, let's see, so I'll look into that, and find out what the status of that is. Fairfield Beach to Rickards and Penfield, that was approved for the study, so that's another, I did not fill that one out, but that would be an RFP. We're hoping for I'm gonna say summer of 2022. We have a group shortlisted for that, and, it'd be nice if we can kind of put 3 or 4 projects together and send it out as one RFP.
And then the implementation will follow that
Right.
at some point. That's a whole new.
I have to admit, I
thing.
don't know that much about Penfield Beach resilience.
Well, that's the geotube that we wanted to put in there. We got the $600 grant, but we kicked the $600,000 grant over to the wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah,
Try and
so
make
there's
that
no
whole-
more, so that-
But Deep didn't like that idea anyway, and I'm just
Well,
saying,
the
we
only
need
reason they
to.
didn't like it is because they weren't approving us on Penfield. I don't know that they wouldn't have allowed
I
it
don't-
in Geotube.
No,
Again, hard
they
to
said, that's
say.
a flood and erosion control structure.
They
They
were,
said it was a structure.
no, but they were saying things because they were mad at us.
Well-
I think.
Well, if that's the case, then they should be straightforward and just say, well,
Yeah,
because
right.
of this,
Yeah, we're not-
allowing you- or until this gets resolved, we're not approving anything. That's what they should,
But I
they
thought
shouldn't
they-
tell you a measure, because to me, that's, I won't say that's favoritism or
Yeah.
whatever, but that's not being consistent. Because how
Right.
can you say you're gonna approve geotubes in Milford and in Greenwich, but not in Fairfield?
Yeah.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
they have approved them elsewhere in Connecticut.
I don't know if they have.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Why don't you ask if you see any of our buds at your EBC tomorrow?
Geotubes.
Ask if there have been
Geotubes.
any geotubes approved in the state of Connecticut.
Okay, yeah.
And in a positive way.
Yeah.
Have you got any good experiences in Connecticut with geotubes anywhere else in any other cities?
Again, it's, like Dick said, they consider it a flood control structure. You know, the leaf balls, we all know they seem to love them, but they gotta be under
Yeah,
certain
they're not a flood.
elevation.
But
and
they're not,
affected.
they're not a structure. I mean, you can,
In a way,
the water can go right
it's
through
only in
Yeah.
bays and
Okay.
whatnot, or at least not with the.
so that's what that is,
affected
and we'll just,
districts.
we'll
Right.
roll that into the pavilion project.
Let's see, I didn't, Fairfield, Beach to wastewater.
Yeah, that's a conceptual thing, and we
Right,
haven't
it's
really
still-
developed that
That just came
anywhere.
out of the Army Corps thing.
Right,
Yeah, that's,
and that's why I added this column, active near term. In other words, if something's still maybe 3 years, 4 years out, it's not near term, so
yeah, I mean, if you
we're not
wanted,
gonna worry
you
about
could,
that.
in one of the columns, you could say just later. I don't even know if we have it even on the 5-year capital.
No, it's, yeah,
450K there?
yeah.
Yeah,
Because we'd have to update the Army Corps. I mean, Army Corps had costings on it. but I don't know if we'd even do the Army Corps proposed plan. They
Well, I
they
think
had
doing that
even-
section that we're looking at is the first step, because that was the, like, I'll call it the lowest cost. Don't forget, this was $660 million for 4 sections.
Yeah,
You know, these
Yeah.
are not gonna be,
Yeah, so that's somewhere off in the future.
yeah.
Wastewater treatment plant hardening,
Hardening.
almost complete.
what is left to do on that? I thought that was done.
Yeah. They have, the microgrid has to be completed in order to hook up pump station number 1 to power. Right now, pump station number 1 is sitting there with an emergency generator that you have to go out and start if you need to run it.
And
there's
what's
some
the
minor
status of the
landscaping.
microgrid?
They just got some more money for that. I think they're re-upping to get that finished. That's a few months. Do you know, Bill, the microgrid, a few months away, I would say?
Yeah, Laura and I wanna say James Ryan are involved in that,
Well, Laura's not involved in it anymore.
Well, no, for about 8 more days.
Oh, gosh.
Have you given her exit to-do list? Laura, we're sorry to see you go, but you can't leave until these 8 things are done.
Per diem.
Yeah, she's looking at perhaps maybe, finishing up on some.
She'll
but
extend.
She's not doing any new.
All right, well, we don't wanna obligate anything for the record here.
Yeah, we want her to be brought back as a consultant.
Let's see, what else here, the railroad bridge tie gate replacement. Yeah, I know we were going back and forth with Shippo.
Yeah,
It looked good, and then all of a sudden, we had an idea of maybe cutting the bridge and putting some of it at the museum. I think they shot that one down.
Do you have a sense, because I talked to Tim Bishop about that, I talked to Laura about that, I had talked to Brian Carey about that, and this Shippo thing, it's like, I don't get a sense that there's any meaningful conversation with them about what we can do to keep the memory of that treasure with a little artifact, but God, can't we get it out of our way to do this?
You would think, the only other thing, and again, I don't know if there's any, if we say we're gonna move it from here to here, and they approve that, but then the thing falls apart, or whatever, I have no idea.
Yeah, can we say act of God, and they don't, and they slap our wrist with a nasty letter for file?
And then we say, whoops.
Yeah.
But it also shows you too, of whether it's these grants or a gift to the town, why they have to go do this stuff, because that
pay
was,
attention,
at that time, it sounded like a great idea, but now
Now we're stuck.
it's actually holding us back.
Well, the crane operator said he wouldn't move it because it would fall apart.
Well, we have I can't say.
Well, he also
There's a
said
good
he-
inkling that,
Yeah.
he couldn't put
Erosion.
his big machine on the berm. Because you can rig anything, you can make a whole substructure so it doesn't fall apart, it costs you $1 gazillion, but you could do that. But the way I heard it was that to get a machine big enough to do that lift and swing it out of the way, he couldn't get the machine there because of the
it
doom.
was more of an
the berm.
access thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, there's some members that I know are corroding away, and
Yeah, because
certainly any of the timbers.
Yeah.
Hey, what would happen if it just falls apart? Then there's a safety issue that we would have to go in front of SHPO and say, this is a public safety concern.
See, that's the other thing, and again, I'm not
those are all things that need to
100%
be
sure.
a conversation.
On one of the webinars or whatever, where there were 50 people, and I swear, a good 80% of them looked like they were at home still. I mean, it's just hard to believe that there's still a lot of people working privately and publicly, remotely, and I wouldn't be surprised if that group is, still working remotely. Not to say that will impact anything.
Grouping the SHPO.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
well, see, my sense was,
It just
and
seems-
this
again,
goes,
I don't have a contact, so I don't know.
yeah, this goes back to Brian, it's like, it was impossible to get a hold of somebody who
And that was even
would
before
talk
COVID.
to you.
Yeah, I know.
Because he did have a couple of emails, I think, with some woman that
And
he spoke
he
with.
took that, so Laura and I
Yeah,
weren't
I know.
involved at all
Right.
in that, and,
Maybe we
Okay.
should work
weren't
on that
about
one.
So we'll,
to force
we
the
need to,
issue.
we need
Let's-
to,
so maybe
we
Tim
need to
needs
do
to-
something on that.
Tim needs to step up on this then. So this is Tim.
And then, let's see, the Pine Creek culvert replacement, that's complete. That's by the fire training center.
Yes,
So
Yes.
again, another way to, I identify that if you wanted to.
Yeah, 'cause I wouldn't have known which one that was.
Yeah, put FTC or something like that.
Pine Creek dike elevation, that the neighbors didn't want that, and that's dead on the vine, that's why I said.
Berm the tide,
no
the
action.
hardening, landfill, the staff.
I don't think we should take that off, 'cause they don't want 3 feet.
No, I'm not taking it off, I'm just saying,
Oh,
not
okay.
active near term.
This is the Pine Creek.
Pine
I mean,
Creek
they
dike.
don't want 3 feet, but, you know, would they take, if they get a storm overflow that, you better believe that Pine Creek
Yes,
people
they
will be
will.
banging on our doors.
3 feet's tough.
3 feet's tough, 1 foot,
yes.
1 foot you could get away with, 'cause people can,
They want
can
it.
lift a kayak across 1 foot.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, 3 feet
I
takes
told
away.
you, there was 4 inch of reserve or freeboard from sand.
Sandy, yeah,
About right.
yeah.
4 inches.
Yeah.
Right.
You raised it 1 foot, again, you're playing.
It might not be enough, and it'd
probability
be,
game.
and it'd be expensive to
1
do
foot
1
might
foot.
help if it goes up 6 inches from Sandy, but if it goes up 2 feet, it didn't do
It
anything.
didn't do enough.
And, you know,
I mean, maybe we just wait till.
but the only
they
thing
complain.
is, we know that if you only go up 1 foot, then there's gonna be no grants, and then I don't know.
It won't be enough to get your grant.
And then
Yeah, right,
permitting, I have
right,
no idea
right.
on that too,
Yeah.
but to leave it on there or, you know,
Yeah.
I'd leave it on.
No, we
with
need
just as
we need to
a-
have it on there.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's for when the neighborhood floods, it's like, hey, we can only do
Yeah.
so much, they didn't make us the king yet.
You got-
or if we ever happen to get a hold of the DEP, maybe even for a meeting where we kinda go over these projects preliminarily and we at least get them to commit to say, yes,
Yes.
this is
We would explore something like that. We
We're
would-
not sure, no way, it'd be nice.
It'd be helpful.
But-
And then we only have to deal with all of the residents with their docks and,
Oh, well, yeah, they always throw in mitigation somehow into any of these, yeah.
Yeah.
And, or access or.
Okay.
Well, the top of that
So we
dike
got
is supposed
that
to be an access road for vehicles, right?
Oh, well, they
well,
had
it's just
that's a
access,
path,
there's
I
an
would call
access
it.
for
So
maintenance.
people build stuff on top now.
There's an easement,
Yeah.
The
in
town is
the-
supposed to
in
be
the
able to
land
get
record.
freely across
Yeah.
the whole top of
Yeah,
the dike.
they
And
can't.
walking, I can't even walk across it, and there's a couple of areas where people
Yeah.
have fences
Yeah.
across.
yeah.
Yeah, and that is illegal.
Should the fire marshal go there and talk to him?
It's not a
I mean,
fire.
we don't care about it now, but when we start to build, they have to take those fences down.
Yeah.
If we ever decide to raise
And as
it.
we found out, you know, if there's unpermitted structure, there's always that risk that they can.
And there's
take it
mature
back or they
trees,
can-
there's
yeah.
mature trees that have grown on top of it, 'cause it's been 50 years.
Well, trees are actively, they weaken the dike.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
actually,
you
that
don't
actually,
want
we-
to,
yeah.
that actually we should remove those.
But now,
Old
see-
bush or something like that might be okay,
I-
I have to check.
I haven't
Trees or
gone-
something, but
I haven't
trees are
gone-
They
absolutely
should be
no.
removed, I
Yeah.
think.
I haven't gone back and looked at the drawings, what they might or might not say, but the verbiage, and I think I sent it around recently, the verbiage for the easement is not that complete and thorough. It doesn't talk about all this stuff, you know, it says you will provide a maintenance easement across a 10-foot wide strip on top, or provide a maintenance easement as shown on drawing number 492.
Look at any Army Corps dam, for instance, and there's not a tree or
There aren't
a
trees.
bush.
No, no.
And certainly not
I don't want
fences. But I'm not gonna make a big deal of it, but that might be something that
But
we could do
at some point-
Flood and Erosion might wanna do a walk along that and just see,
Yeah.
we might
But
wanna just go
We
look.
did do that
How long ago?
with the Army Corps. Wasn't it?
Along the whole
Couple
dike?
guys came down from the Army Corps, I think.
I was,
I'm pretty sure. We
I know
went
the
from
day they
Bowman's
came.
Way all the way around to the ball fields, to the railroad bridge tight gates. We walked the whole top of the berm there. And there were some places where we had to go out to the street and around the house to get back on it or something, as I recall.
Oh, really?
Rick Brower, me, Laura, and I think 2 guys from the Army Corps.
Okay. And did you take notes? I mean, are there things that we need to worry about, or?
No, it was just,
I was just thinking it'd be fun to do a field trip.
Yeah, sure. I'll take a walk with you.
I'll take a walk with you, yeah.
and then we'll stop at Don's house for cocktails after.
That's what I'm
Just
thinking,
remember,
yeah.
if you have a quorum,
Oh, we have to minute it,
it's considered a meeting.
so only 2 of us can go.
I mean, I won't say, I would
You
know.
No,
won't-
you're
you
right.
won't talk
Or
about
you make it a meeting.
Or we make it,
What's the harm?
then we have to notice it.
Yeah, but you know,
Well, that's
what's the
actually,
harm?
Anybody
that's,
sees.
see, I just,
It's
we can just,
awareness, I would treat that as an education or awareness.
yeah.
We're gonna go for the benefit of the community.
We're going to walk the berm and
Mhm.
understand the access, ease of access, and,
make observations.
Yeah.
We're not at this time issue.
And we'll invite a representative from the Pine Creek Residents Association or whatever they
Yeah.
are.
Wasn't that the time when
Pine Creek
Laura
Association.
said they were there, and one of the neighbors came right down and says, we own down to the water? He says, no, we own halfway through the dike, and the owner says, no, we own to the water. So the FEMA guy says, you pay for it, and walked away, remember that? And then it took the lawyers 2 weeks of work to get some agreement on it again.
Gotta be careful.
Oh, talking about when they did the repair with the coir logs?
Yes.
Okay, because I don't remember that from when we did the
Yeah,
walk on
The
top.
guy got very angry.
We have the berm, the tie, the wastewater hardening, landfill to Sasco. That, I think, is part of one of our, BCA's.
I think we did do a BCA on that, you're right.
So at least we could say BCA.
Progress.
You know.
And was the BCA done with the Army Corps' plan for that?
Yes, so that was part of that's part of the.
And was
We
that
used the Army
one of the
Corps.
Circa's BCA's?
Yeah, so that, we're gonna maybe just call that a section, you wanna call it section 1, 2, but it's a section of it, just as the one by the marina to the Riverside open space is another section.
Was one of their sections, yeah.
And then there's 2 or 3 other sections in the middle that, we have a study already on one of them, and the other 2 are just longer term.
They're longer
They're not the
studies, yeah.
weak link right now, so. Let's see, what else?
Okay,
The 300 for design and permitting for that, that is not funded. Maybe we should put that not funded. The BCA is funded, but that's all.
The BCA is done.
No.
Oh,
Circus
No,
doing
this
it.
is the circle.
okay,
We got the grant.
got it.
And actually, on that circa, we have to do an RFP for that and hire a consultant. So I don't know if there's a standard BCA that they'll use.
Circa's going to hire, Circa's going to hire
They've
the,
given us the.
They gave us the
agreement,
money.
They give us the money, we hire.
okay.
Unlike the one that we did for the pump station, Circa actually had done that one.
Okay.
I just wanna clarify.
Yeah. So next steps are an RFP, and you think that'll be done in the summer? When will we?
Oh, no, that should have to be done in May. It should have been done already. to be
Oh.
honest with you. I mean, we only got the notice a week and a half ago, but I just.
That should be a very quick RFP, though. That's not gonna be a long
Well,
one, is it?
I do have somebody from purchasing here, maybe. The key thing there is,
This is so good that we have our purchasing and engineering department together, so
there's
she
a
can,
certain
she
figure
can
that they've
speed us
given us.
through.
And so I really have to talk to Gerald about it, but there's a certain figure that we have, I don't wanna disclose it.
15,000.
No, I can't say. But whatever that number is, and then, can I give that number, and then whoever wants to do the BCA, maybe say, oh, we could do it for 28, we could do it or 25, or 16, or 38, whatever the number is, if the number's lower than that, you would say yes. Or do we just leave it blank, let them fill it out, but then there's a risk of if they're all over that
Being
number.
over, yeah.
And
Then you gotta go in
then I
again,
gotta say, well, who's the lowest one? Are you willing to do it for this? Because that's all the money we have.
or it has to go out to bid again.
Again.
So let me ask you a question. So we got $30,000 to do a sum of money to do 3 BCAs. So technically, it's 1/3 of that per.
Or it could be,
And that
or we
puts us
lump
under
sum
a
or
threshold,
whatever.
doesn't it, for purchasing?
And
I'm
that,
sorry?
that could be the amount, or it could be a different amount.
Because some of them might be a
That's what we
little
shoot-
bit
right,
more, yeah.
shooting for it, right.
Okay.
And there's whatever the agreement was, that's what was applied for, but what the agreement had to.
Oh, we might get a little, okay.
All
All right.
Fairfield Peninsula.
So the elevation survey is on hold until we can get the surveyors back, because they're busy doing other things. What is your sense of when that might happen?
That one, we're looking at possibly even farming out or getting some sort of grant for that.
I'll try to get a grant for that.
Yeah.
What are our surveyors doing?
It's the surveying, and then it's also the engineering, and.
Oh, we would definitely need the engineering grant, yeah.
Again, 2 years ago, or when we thought we might have a chance at this, we knew it was gonna take more than 1 year.
Right.
And we didn't know about COVID, we didn't know about all this other stuff that's come into play.
Did it flood last night down your place?
Oh, yeah. We got 7 inches of water. They were shoveling sand out. As a matter of fact, that's actually one of the things I want to talk to John Marsilio about. They took a lot of sand came in off the beaches. They shoveled it all up into a dump truck and they took it to the dump instead of putting it back on the beach. I mean, why are we taking our sand, good sand, to the dump?
I don't know if they did it, it might only be temporarily or something like that, because I was asked today, just to let you know, is the town process of, can we put it back on the beach? And the answer would be yes, as long as it's above the coastal jurisdiction line, we can put that back. And that's what I think we would do. Now, the other option is.
Well, it got taken away in a dump truck.
Put it at a certain spot, and then allow public access if some of the private beach got washed out.
Well, this was all private beach sand.
Yeah, it's all private on there.
But it was in the road.
It's a fine line.
It was weird because it's in the road, so DPW came and they took it all out. We had, right in front of my house, we had 7 or 8 inches of water. Oh, yeah. I got 2 chairs washed away. There were people all up and down the beach. We didn't realize it'd be quite this bad, so we.
Well, they showed a picture at East Haven, but that's always the same one they always show.
Westport, too.
Yeah.
Here's what it was. It was 2.5 feet above the predicted high tide.
And predicted was 8.
And this is funny because it's at 142, which was the high tide. Yeah, so it was right at high tide. And then the winds, that's the winds.
So it was, I guess, sometimes we keep track of this information. So it's 2.5 feet above predicted.
Yep. 2.1.
Oh, 2.1.
2.1 feet.
2.1.
Predicted because it was a perfect. It's a full moon.
No, I'm
It's
not.
a full moon.
I'm above the turnaround.
Yeah, the predicted was, 4.15 feet. NAVD 88, 4.15, and the preliminary is 6.2.
The beach is
So
on that
2.1.
side. The water rushed in and took out the whole driveway, and it was.
Well, actually,
It already
4.15 and 6.2.
You can kind of see how high that is. That was all the way across the road. It was like 6 inches worth of sand across the road.
The older one, which puts it at a decent nor'easter, but I do remember, a couple of ones in the, I'm gonna say, what year was that?
You want that? That's off the Bridgeport NOAA site.
When they were doing Penfield, there was an 8.3 or an 8.4.
Yeah, that's high.
We're doing the first Penfield,
Because I think rule of thumb, when we get to 7 feet, they start flooding down at the end of the peninsula there.
Yeah. Well, again, I'll just give you a quick lesson here. So the 4.15 is predicted. That was that. Now again, you'd said 7 something. You have to always be careful when you look at the tide chart. I think some references are mean low water, mean low water, and then the other is sea level or the
mean sea level.
NAVD 88.
Yeah,
So always be careful on that. The next thing is the predicted like 2 weeks from or a week from now, the predicted might only be about 3 because they take in consideration the full moon is now out. So the fact that it's a full moon and the prediction, it's already incorporated.
Right.
What they can't predict
is
the wind and then low pressure. Those are the 2 things.
Yep.
So wind direction and obviously wind speed, pushing up. So, I think the low pressure can maybe alter it about a foot, but the wind can alter it, anywhere from like 1 to 4 feet, say.
So when I look up on this,
a good factor.
on this Bridgeport Harbor tide thing, and it says high tide is 8.01 feet, that's not.
That's like mean low water. Mean low water. Yeah, that's based on mean low water typically. That's what the 7 foot, like when, what I said, the rule, when it gets to 7 feet, people out on the peninsula, low road areas need to be careful. But that's 7 feet above mean low water, because the typical tide range is 6 feet, Bill, 6.5, 6.2?
Actually, 6.9, I think.
Is 7?
I think so, yeah.
So there's a bunch of
That
them
sounds
coming
fine.
up mid-May that are gonna be over 8
That's
feet
another
again.
full moon.
Full moon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so if they have wind, we're gonna get the flooding again in mid-May.
Yeah, I think it's 7, Dick, because if I recall, when I first started here, it was like 3.5.
Yeah, 3.5 either way.
So
Three,
3.5 on either
yeah,
side.
yep, that's fair.
But I didn't realize it does vary a little bit, where, again, mid-cycle, it may only be 6.5, but full moon cycle, because you get the lower of the
Yeah,
low.
yeah,
You
yeah.
actually get a 7.5
Yeah.
or something like
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah.
All right, a little lesson there, I just figured I'd share with you. So yeah, Fairfield Beach Road, again, if there's ever some grant money or, some improvements, and again, you gotta kind of figure out, because if they're gonna marry us to meeting the 100-year storm and flood elevations and all that, Fairfield
Mhm,
Beach Road would be, 6 foot higher than what it is now, and, well, the reason why we were looking at originally doing it in-house is we were gonna tweak and have the road, because, again, a little history, I wanna say, in the early 90s, there were 3 sections of Fairfield Beach Road that were raised. One was only a couple of, like 4 or 5 inches.
Yeah.
One was maybe 8 to 12 inches, and then one was maybe 1.5 feet. And it was all based on neighborhood
What they would
acceptance and where the elevations
Well,
were.
apparently they're gonna,
So, the
the
one
time-
that was really low, we were able to raise up, because
Yeah.
they were getting flooded constant, and we had major neighborhood support for that. But then there were a couple of other ones where we wanted to go maybe twice as high as what we did, but people's garage, they didn't want to be lower than the road, or real estate wise, or they didn't want to give the town an easement, and so we had a.
I would bet that the people who get flooded regularly would be very open to.
Yeah.
And the only reason
And
I'm,
then again, the people have changed from the 90s,
Right.
but.
the only reason I
that
wanna
was
sort of push this one forward is because apparently, according to, I guess John Marsilio was doing an analysis of paving across the whole town, and, there's a lot of people who want, Fairfield Beach Road needs to be repaved.
Yeah, the water company has
The
on
water
their
company
schedule,
has a
and
couple
we're trying-
things,
yeah.
but it'd be nice to have the design plan done so that when Aquarian finishes,
Mhm.
we can pave it and raise it at the same time, as opposed to paving it after Aquarian, then coming back 2 years later
Right.
and doing it again.
That-
It's like,
that
why
might
would you
be
do it?
'cause they're trying to do a fast track on that, yeah.
Well, they're at least a year away, so if we could get these surveyors in and do.
I don't know about that, and I've heard different.
Oh, you think they're coming sooner than a year?
It might, I don't know.
Wow.
Because the condition of that road is not the greatest.
Oh, it's terrible, yeah. They're
So it's
trying to.
it's a balance in that, but like you said, if they just pave it, chances of us raising that road are gonna be a little.
Yeah, so what can we do could we try to fast track this project, because it's been a year and a half? Just so if we're gonna raise a
Yeah.
couple sections,
I-
would be, the time to do it
Let me
would
talk
be.
to John and see if it does get delayed a year, we might be able to do something. If they're looking at the summer, I just don't see how we could get it in time.
Yeah.
Well, okay. You got, maybe you guys can just take a look at what floods now, like what flooded last night? And
I don't know the
and
whole
can
road.
we
I know-
can we raise that a foot and eliminate much of that flooding?
I mean, the issue would be, someone needs to do the design work about the drains, because part of the issue is the water comes right up through the drains. And it comes right-
It can, but if the water comes and pushes the sand, where does the sand go? On the road and into the drain.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I can tell you where the flooding was last night, but I don't know if there might have been other flooding up on the other parts of the road. I didn't walk that way. I just walked the other way. But it was a lot. I mean, you can talk to the crews that were out there. They were moving a lot of shells and sand. And that all came across the road from the beach side.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And again, a lot of it, there's, especially what I call near the elbow,
That was where most of it
A
was.
lot of that has nothing to do with the pipes or whatever, that's just the weakest point
Yeah.
and the elevations of the beach, so to speak.
Right,
It's almost just like a nice little ramp, and the water just comes and it goes right on up.
right.
And that is one of the lower points of Fairfield.
That's an area, yeah. The other parts that flooded a lot were, the creek was so high that there's a couple areas where there's no bulkhead at all, and it just comes right across.
Yeah.
And that was 7 inches across from the
That
creek.
was where our surveyors were also losing time, but that was important too, because you can raise the road, but if the water's coming around on the creek side.
We would have,
trying
a couple of them, you'd have to put the
identify
bulkheads
the
in.
lower points of the bulkhead.
Yeah, there's 2 areas in particular that have no bulkhead, virtually,
Right.
in essence, and the water comes,
And one of
pouring
them,
across.
if it's the case, there was a doctor that used to live there, I won't mention the name, but, and, they didn't have a bulkhead there, and he always wanted to fill in his property but then do a bulkhead, and our friends
a deep wouldn't allow it.
it was a tidal wetland, and
Yeah,
right near the
that's
road.
it.
And
That's
so,
it.
we might, unless it's like immediately like a large curve or a Jersey, like a Jersey barrier, I mean immediately next to the road, I don't know if,
They'd allow it.
because they're not gonna let you.
What if you're protecting infrastructure?
It's amazing, but.
You're protecting infrastructure, yeah, I know.
I love the word retreat. I mean, it's.
You're protecting, I mean, it's an evacuation route, and it's infrastructure.
That might be the only thing that saves us on that, or why we can't meet, but again, to get any grant money, it's gonna be hard, because we're gonna say, evacuation, but you're not doing it to the 100-year flood?
Yeah.
It's.
See, but
you know,
we'll keep on looking.
But this is where, you know what, this is where we could go into bonding a section of the town. So you can bond an area and just charge those property owners over 30 years.
Well, that was with your
assessments.
authority.
Yeah.
Stormwater flood and erosion
Yeah,
authority.
we have,
And
honestly, that saves, so long as if Deep would say, okay, you can put a couple, barriers in because it's an evacuation safety route, that would help everyone.
All right, well, the next time I see John Marsilio, I'll ask him about the latest update on that.
Yeah.
And find out if raising the road is possible, or if the project gets delayed. Otherwise, and who knows, I don't know what kind of, because again, the last time we raised it was the very early 90s, and so, I don't know if we need permits.
That being between the 2 humps?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going to our next group, M, was shoreline study, the high-intensity wave study. Yeah, the RFP, we have to just finalize on that,
And that might go out, you said, in May?
That would be the goal. We don't want to go too far later than that if our friends at URI or
Yeah, we're gonna
friends, I gotta be careful if I'm looking at that's quote unquote, because we also have friend consultants and other people who are qualified as well. When we do the RFP, it's gonna most likely be based on pricing anyway for that.
Okay, and then the T-groins, that's off into the future. It might wind up being part of that study, might not, who knows. And then Perry's Green bulkhead,
Perry's Green
so that's
bulkhead
funded.
is out, the
Rock
RFP is
groins
out.
And it was
Due
rock
very
stuff
shortly.
to go out into the water, this is the water.
Due back late April, yeah, I didn't bother to look up the date, I just put late
I want
April.
to say 28, but
so
don't.
it's blocked.
Yeah,
So
something.
what it does is
Whatever.
it accrues sand, so this is the
And
deep
then,
side. So it makes,
Now, what else did I forget coastal? I know that I forgot the McClevey Tide Gate.
Okay, yeah, we'd have to look on the capital improvement project, because
Yeah.
we got a couple of, I think, if I recall, Tim got, I know it was at least the 3. It was Riverside.
Right,
Tide
Riverside
Gate.
Creek and McClevey Tide Gate.
McClevey Tide Gate, and I thought there was one other one.
I
and
don't
McClevey is
think
which
so.
one again, which one?
McClevey is the one right at that indentation
Oh,
on
in the
Pine Creek,
indent,
across the street from you.
Yeah,
Do you have that capital list, or somebody
Yeah.
showed me that, and then maybe it'll refresh my memory really quick.
Are we on N?
We're right after N, we're saying that there's gonna be,
This would be
Okay.
N, oh, this
oh,
would
this
be
will be
O.
an O, we're adding an O.
Oh,
Oh.
All right, so there's the two, Pine Creek and Riverside for 2023.
Yeah, McLeavy was 500,000.
Oh, okay, I knew there were two other ones, but they're for next year. South Benson Marina and Salt Meadow Dike, so if you
Right,
wanna put
yep.
both of them, so, and actually McLeavy, is that one that was listed on here?
that was.
FY '23 non-recurring capital, well, I'm looking
Alright, so
at this
that's
list, I don't know
all-
if it's approved or proposed.
And then we have P and Q, so if you wanted to do P and Q would be, P would be South Benson Marina tie gate. And then Salt Meadow would be Q.
Okay.
Where's Salt Meadow? Which one is it?
That's by the condos, there's a path that you go from the condos to the old landfill.
Oh, okay.
And it's a back way where you could get to that bridge that we were talking about, that, historic bridge. And it hooks up with the,
Right,
There's a walking
that's
path.
Frank Rice Trail.
That's for the second level of that grand marsh there, after you got the railroad bridge tide gates,
Right.
and they go to one level, and then you have the other set of tide gates that are set to a different level. That's my understanding.
Yeah, you know, if you imagine the landfill being the big island center hump,
Right.
the one-way going around is you know, the water that, you know, it goes around and then it snakes, past the landfill and then comes around by Old Field.
Okay.
And, that's in between
Yeah, it actually goes up
the
Old Field and
railroad
goes all the
bridge
way,
tie gate.
Right, yeah.
almost all the way to the Post Road. It goes to, St. Thomas School, the marsh behind St. Thomas School.
Right.
And then, let me see, and then the other side, yeah, it goes towards Reef Road on the other side of the,
What did I do?
so here you go, you get this back thing. For downtown Sherman Green, the downtown resiliency infrastructure,
Does this kick you out after 60 minutes?
Mm-mm. Well, you were there.
Yeah, no, I just joined back in.
Oh, okay.
we have a scope of services, and it just, you know, because it's a contract, it has to be approved by the Board of Selectmen or the town attorney.
So we don't have to go out for RFP on this one?
We're basing it on the RFP that the consultant who did the downtown resiliency. the
Already
first
did.
time, the green infrastructure, yeah. We're piggybacking on that.
So when do you expect to go out to bid on this one then, in terms of,
Oh, they have to do the design, it's gonna be at least a year.
oh, this is a design first, okay.
And then underneath that one is C, study and implementation.
That's the railroad bridges,
Of the railroad, instead of, don't call them bridges, let's call them underpasses.
underpasses, okay?
And, the underpasses, that one, we got, we got selected by Circa for a $200,000 study for that. So they'll be handling and administering that.
So they're gonna select the
Yeah,
consultant
that
and
one, they're
everything,
gonna select
okay.
the consultant. They may ask for, they actually preliminary, they asked me for input. They had mentioned 8 firms that had submitted, and did we have any preference? And I said, well, the 2 I'm familiar with, the others I wasn't. But you know, if they feel comfortable with them, I'm fine,
Mhm,
you know.
yeah.
There was nobody that would say, oh, we don't work well with, you know.
That's great that that's part of the Transit Development Resiliency Master,
Yeah, I think so,
Connecticut
yeah,
plan.
yeah,
Yeah.
200.
that's great.
So, and, you know, that's a different, form of flooding that
Yeah.
it doesn't affect properties per se,
Mm.
but, there always seems
It
to
affects
be, you know,
tempers.
1 or 2 cars that get stuck in
I
there.
know, how can
At
people be
least.
so
And
dumb?
and, you know, just in a, you know, if everyone had to leave in a hurry, you know, there's only the 2 bridges that go over the railroad.
Yeah, that
could- Yeah,
to
yeah.
get out of
Yeah.
town. 3 if you go towards Westport, I guess. And then the Rooster River, an update on that is, they submitted, like an application, or we'll call it a pre-application or concept application. And the Army Corps and the DEP, basically said that, they were very concerned that we were, putting our detention areas in the wetlands. And even though we avoided most of the wetland soil, when you have the river going by or the tributary, it's unavoidable. And so we have to analyze all, and I use the word all, alternatives. And so we're working with Parks and Rec to write a letter saying that, using Tungus Hill fields would mean, a complete, if we had the whole detention area there, we would lose the use of the fields where it's a full regulation soccer field and baseball field where they're going to play, the senior track. I think the playground on the hill is okay, but a lot of stuff gets lost there, and it's the only green space in that native.
Yeah, but we're not talking about the water going there and staying there for a week.
No, I know that, and our consultant said that they had calculated there's a 24 or 26 hour inundation, and then after that it goes away.
Yeah.
And so we've taken pictures, we've been out in the field, and we're showing them, look at this, during the rains, like even, if it rained a little bit more, not that I want it, but if it had, we could have gone out there and shown that, because you could see debris line of where the water does get trapped there anyway, even today, because it's all being funneled into, small pipes that get clogged or whatever. And then there were shopping carts, and it was all a mess, and by doing this, we would probably do some mitigation or cleaning up as well. Yeah. So we're gonna have to show them that, we did alter the design, where off the top of my head, I'll say we were 30 feet from the fence of the field, and now maybe we'll move it to 10 or 15 feet away from the field, so we're gonna move it right up against the field, but if that's what they want. And that might reduce the wetland impact, and I'm just gonna throw out a number of, instead of 400 square feet, maybe now it's only 200 square feet,
I mean, they might just want to see some movement, and they might not, that might be enough, just showing them.
I have no idea, but they made it clear by law, they have to basically have us look at all the alternatives. And the same thing even on the Fairchild Wheeler Golf Course, which is in a huge valley, which already, we can show pictures of the inundation from storms.
And those are considered wetlands at the very bottom?
2018. And and they're making us do a higher standard of design too, of 1,000-year storm.
Why?
Well, there's, because they're calling these impoundment areas dams, and because of the wetland and its water diversion. And so,
what's wrong with storing water on a wetland?
I don't know, I'm just...
To the public, and that's where the frustration comes in, and the fact that we've, it's been a year, and it seems like we're not making progress, but we are. It's just that we told people, told the board that these approvals can take years,
I know, but the ARPA money is a tough one, because it's runs out.
I know, that's why we're still hopping on this, and we're hoping that the things that are at 60% design, and so,
even if we can get a couple of these through and build them
within
our time frame.
That's our
we may not get them all, but
that's our intention.
Bill, do both Deep and Army Corps have their finger in the pie when dams are involved?
Yes. Yeah, one is called dam, the other one's like a water diversion. So, and because there's wetlands involved, even the Army Corps gets involved. And I was a little surprised at that. I was like, I thought Army Corps was navigable rivers, but apparently there's another section. Don't quote me on it, I think section 404 or something like that.
Yeah, they have 504 and 404. They throw all those numbers off.
What's the difference between a 500-year and a 1,000-year storm?
Probably a couple of inches.
Yeah, it can't be much, right?
You'd figure, but it's up there though. I want to say
that make a
like
difference?
The 100-year storm is now 8.4. Maybe the 500 is 9 or 10. And I can get you that number though. We have a chart. I have a chart. I can get you.
I never heard of a 1,000-year storm.
There's even one higher than that they made.
And these are all rain events. this has nothing to do with
That's right.
coastal storm,
That's
this is all
right. These
rain
are all
events.
Rain
events,
events.
right. And there's even one where it's the maximum probable, and you have to design for half of it. So their thing is, if we get 32 inches, we have to design half, or 16 inches in a 24-hour storm. That's the one at the
huge.
Fairchild Wheeler.
But that's
They're
because,
making us look at a
They're
16
making-
inches.
they might.
well, I mean, we're up north, but just remember, when that hurricane came to Houston, they got 54 inches of rain
Yeah.
over a day and a
Couple of
half,
days or
maybe,
something.
2 days,
2
something like
days,
that.
yeah.
But 54 inches of rain, 'cause that low just sat there and sucked in that water up off the Gulf and dropped it on Houston. Yeah.
But, that would be, I mean, I have heard hurricane remnants in the 8, 9, and 10s even, you know, even though our quote 100-year storm was 8.4, but,
Wow.
I haven't heard 16 or 32 or anything
That's a lot.
around here. So, anyway, so that's that, but, we're also, we're working with Bridgeport, and we're looking at all possibilities, all sorts of grants. Bridgeport's even looking at additional studies where they're actually trying to do a much more.
This is on the Rooster River
Yeah, on the
corridor?
Rooster River, yep. For, maybe looking at, all the pipes that come into the Rooster River, you know, and doing a study there.
For those,
We did a hydrologic study, looking at the whole watershed. They might be looking at a more micro, micro areas or, drainage systems, you know, and its effects to the river. We each have, letters of support. I can give them one as well. We're from Trumbull and, Bridgeport, saying that we support, you know, your project over there, and Bridgeport has given us 2, where they said they would support our, raise grant, but even though we didn't apply for it, and the other one of any grants that we're looking for Rooster River. So there's cooperation between the
That's good.
municipalities on that.
That's good.
So, yeah, 'cause they're having the same issues, you know. And then that leads into cooperation again with the estuary.
Yep.
And, now, the only thing on that is, I have to admit, today I didn't even look at anything on that. Is there something that's pre-app or something that's due in the next day or two?
No, that's for the other grant.
The other
The
grant.
C something, CORF or I don't
there
even
is,
know.
April 22nd for the Long Island Sound
That's
is
the
a
LISS.
opportunity to go back to them with a sort of informal dialogue, but the grant itself is not due until May 19th. So it was more a question, and I don't know if Chadwick was gonna go back to them or not. We kind of left it in his hands.
Yeah.
'Cause he was gonna write the narrative, but it was it was sort of a chance for us to go have an informal dialogue about, would you accept it if we did this kind of stuff?
And did you write an email or something? 'Cause
I wrote notes of the meeting.
Becky, but I haven't even read the email.
I wrote notes of the meeting of just what we were all gonna do. And one of the things you were gonna do, actually, is check with purchasing.
Yeah, well, Gerald was just in today, so I was gonna.
Okay, so maybe tomorrow you can check with him about whether,
He was off for a couple of days, and he's swamped.
yeah, 'cause, basically, University of Rhode Island offered to write the grant dialogue, or at least
Right, yep.
the proposal. They can't really do the budget part of it, although they would do an updated budget part of it. So they would give us, but, you know, it would have to be understood that we're not giving them the project. We would still have to put it out for RFP, because it would be within our, our RFP criteria. So would purchasing allow someone to write the grant for us?
Yeah, I have to find that out, because they do that sometimes on the bridge. We get consultants, engineers, say, oh, we'll do the grant for you. And then how can you say you do the grant,
and
then you do an RFP, and if it's based on quality-based, it's based on price, it's one thing, but quality-based, how are you gonna say, well, they're already familiar with the project?
Yeah.
You know?
Right. So it doesn't put a constraint on it. And yet they're doing it for us for no charge. So how do you?
Right, but you get your grant money.
But would they bid on the project?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, they're not just doing, if they were, we'll help you with that, and then we're done, but no, it would be.
I mean, and we would have whatever weighting criteria we would put on it, so, I mean, they would, but do they get now an unfair advantage because they wrote the RFP?
Well, they would not, we wouldn't
Allow them.
we wouldn't
Yeah,
use that, but they might think that they would. I mean, I don't know what they think.
No, but to me, that's
Well, they're not gonna
something-
write it if they aren't allowed to bid. Why would they?
No, they would be
Right.
allowed to bid, but they're not gonna get preferential treatment because.
No.
Oh, no, they shouldn't.
And they
Right,
should,
but you
and
have to really
and they
do
should
that.
also-
If you base it on the low bid, then it doesn't.
Then it doesn't matter.
Maybe doesn't matter, because if you give them 3 weeks to review whatever information they have
Right.
is available.
and Bill,
to anyone
and
else.
Bill/the town needs to be empowered to do make or buy decisions. He doesn't have the staff to do these things. These things have time constraints on them.
Well, this,
So he should be able to augment his staff by hiring someone to do a task and pay them for it. And then you don't
well,
feel
that's a
beholden
different
to
thing.
anybody.
That's a John Marsilio
Well,
budget issue.
well, we do, and she's.
No, but there's technical stuff involved. It's technical. The grant
That
writer,
might be one of the things that, again, another one, RFP, where we have, grant, or.
but
with
my
the
point
VCA,
is there needs to be
do
a
it with
mechanism.
And other grants, then maybe, if it is a company that can do more than just BCA, then.
There needs to be a mechanism that allows you to do the work on your plate as assigned by various people, or just
Well, and the other thing is,
good,
if we don't have the
good
resources
stewardship of
to
the
apply for a
town
grant,
Right,
and
right.
That
good
means we're
support
not
of
gonna
the
get the money.
residents.
Right,
if
right.
we've got someone who's willing to do it for free,
Yeah, I get it.
why would, and we can't, we don't have the
in a
resources,
strange
why
way-
wouldn't
in a
we?
strange way, when I first got here, though, the grants were so far and few between, when we got a grant, it was a big deal, but we were getting a grant maybe once every 5 years.
Yeah,
You
now,
know, I mean, and just to have so many, I think at one point I was counting 36, one form or the other of grants.
I mean, this is 10 million of grant money that's only people who can apply are people around Long Island Sound. The other National Fish and
Right.
Wildlife is national. So I don't know that we have a good shot at getting it, but it'd be stupid to not apply for it because we just don't have the manpower to apply, and we've got someone
No,
who's
you
willing
have
to
to
write it
apply
for free.
for it.
Well, no, we can't apply for it
Well,
unless we get someone to write it for free.
Just imagine that I'll just arbitrarily say, the grant is a 50-page grant that you have to fill out and do all this economic benefit and cost analysis
And they can do that
plans
for
and
us,
all that.
but we can't do it. We don't have the staff.
Right.
It might take 100 hours to prepare for the application, and so.
So that's where he needs to be aware. He needs to weigh those things.
Yeah, that and not only him, but it could be a town charter thing, and that's where,
Right.
again, good,
Yeah.
bad, or it might even not be on the radar of the town charter revisions. I know they've been talking about certain ones, and is that one of them?
No.
I don't know.
No, but you can't, the problem with getting such detail in the town charter is now, and this is a comment in the write-up, that every time I wanna change that departmental procedure, I'm gonna have to go back to the town charter? That's ridiculous. You're saying, I have perfect knowledge of what this department needs to do going into the future. You need to give the departments responsibility to set their own rules of the road with oversight, appropriate oversight by the financial people, the legal people.
Yeah, we like to.
Well, that's where the town code comes in, because it's easier to change the town code than to change the charter.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're gonna let Bill go, because it's gotten really late, and I think.
Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
We're gonna,
Useful stuff, though, and
We're-
as I said,
See you tomorrow.
it lets people know that,
Bill, would it help if I wrote to, I don't know Gerald at all, but as Chair of Flood and Erosion, would it help if I wrote a quick note before you went in to see him, just to explain the situation, or would that be not good?
He's never gonna see that email.
Oh. Okay, never mind.
you can, but I don't
You
know how
can
much.
call him.
I don't even know him, that's the problem, so I don't know if really.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is.
All right, Bill,
He might even be here still, too.
No, he's not.
No.
All right, I'm gonna let you
You
handle
tried
it
to
then.
set a limit of how long.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the next, agenda item, which we've actually already talked about, which is that we did receive the Circa grant, And, we are in the process, as Bill explained, of, getting scope of work / RFPs written for those. Agenda item 5, any old or new business that may properly come before the board.
The only thing I thought was if you want to do a quick update on the Ash Creek restoration project that's been kicking around for the last few.
Yeah, so basically there's been 2 calls so far between the city of Bridgeport and the town of Fairfield. Tim Bishop has been leading these. The Ash Creek Conservation they're a commission. They're not a commission. They're
Ash Creek Conservation Association
has been on them, and then Flood and Erosion Control has been on them, and Bill Hurley has been on them. So we've had discussions about.
And people from Bridgeport.
I said the city of Bridgeport, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The idea is to apply for these National Fish and Wildlife grants to do 2 things. One is to do additional planting on predominantly the sand spit, in addition to the grass planting that we just did for trees and shrubbery that would increase the resilience against storms for the sand spit. And then we would also look at a couple other areas, one in Bridgeport that tends to flood, and then we would look at re-looking at the Jennings Dune to pull out all the invasives and put on resilient native plants that are very resilient to flooding, so grasses and, again, resilient shrubbery. So we are in the process of pulling together costs for that. Chadwick from the city of Bridgeport has offered to write the grant narrative, which is great. We would probably submit this through the city of Bridgeport as a joint Fairfield-Bridgeport project, because this is the Ash Creek estuary that
Fairfield-Bridgeport private entity, neighborhood group, because.
Well, I think we'd submit it as the 2 towns, and what we would say is
right,
that there's community engagement among the Aspetuck Land Trust, that there is Ash Creek Conservation community involvement, and we're also looking to possibly get the 2 universities involved as part of helping do the planting as an in-kind, because there's going to be a 25% match, I believe, for this grant. So that looks like that's going to happen. There seems to be enough movement on it that I think we're going to be able to get the 1 grant done. We talked about doing a 2nd grant, and that's one where we would need someone like a University of Rhode Island to write the grant for us, because we just don't have the bandwidth to do 2 grants for this. Chadwick from the city of Bridgeport is already writing the 1st grant. There's nobody from the Fairfield side that has the bandwidth to do a grant.
Now, who's Chadwick? I don't even.
He is the resilience manager for the city of Bridgeport. They actually have a resilience manager.
He's relatively new.
Oh, okay.
A good guy.
A couple months, I think. That was the sense I got. 6 months kind of thing.
Yeah, or a year.
That was my sense.
Anyway,
young guy.
But he has some good knowledge of coastal engineering, so
yeah.
It's great that he's taking the lead on that, because again, we just don't have, Terry said that she can kind of help do some of the work. Terry Brown is our part-time grant person, can do a little bit of the work to help do the financial side of it, because Fairfield's going to do the financial side of whatever we do in the Fairfield, and Bridgeport will do the finances of there. So it's, there's a lot of work getting a grant done. So one of the actions is Bill's going to be going to Gerald, and Chadwick's going to be going to his counterpart in the city of Bridgeport to say, how do we feel about, having extra resources who are willing to write these grants for free, help us out on these. That way we have a shot at getting the grant. If we don't do it, we can't apply, we don't even get the grant. How do we feel, and what kind of letter would we have them sign? Maybe there's a way we write a letter that says, we are accepting you to do this, however we RFP process, and you would get no preferential treatment or something. I don't know what the right thing is, but it just seems crazy not to say yes to free help, in my mind. But again, I know we're very sensitive as a town to impropriety, and I don't want to go on the side of impropriety, but I think we should.
We have to learn how to get stuff done.
We need to get stuff done.
Common sense.
So I'm not sure what the right way is, but there must be ways to do it. So that's where we stand with that.
Okay. Public comment. There is no members of the public who have dialed in. to this
Okay.
meeting.
Then I would.
Then I would make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Okay, second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then the meeting is now adjourned.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
At 8:31, and I will stop the recording.